IMCA 5th SEM, School of Computers, IPS Academy, Indore. Ours is a society that moves on the wheel of communication. Particularly in the professional world, it is communication and its related skills that decide a person's career curve. The better one's communication skill, the higher are the chances for him or her to touch the zenith of success. Actually, nothing happens in the professional world without communication. True, it is only a means, not the end. Still, it is communication that propels the management process and serves.
स्नेहल प्लीज कंटिन्यू.
फोन नहीं उठा रहा. अरे वो चल रहा ना, तूने रजिस्ट्रेशन किया था उसमें?
As the lubricant for its smooth operation that defines the existence contemporary time when it comes to an end. Communication thus is vital to the survival, sustenance and growth of an individual and in turn an organization. It is so because in a professional world, what professionals do most of the time is to communicate. The necessity and importance of communication skills can be gauged from the fact that professionals spend nearly 3/4 of their working time in communicating their ideas, views, and plans to others. Communication in the professional world occupies such a pivotal position that there hardly exists any activity in the business and industry that does not require communication to play any role. Communication skills has the potential to make or ruin our fortune. It is precisely to address this professional need that we require to master the various aspects of communication. Today's lecture is about how to communicate, how to develop self-confidence and self-esteem through good communication skills. Through his talk, Dr. P. Bhaskaran Nair will motivate students to develop mastery over language of opportunities. He will also guide students to explore various resources available to develop communication skills. School of Computers, IPS Academy, Indore heartily welcomes resource person for today's talk, Dr. P. Bhaskaran Nair. Dr. Nair retired from Pondicherry Central University in 2014 and thereafter served Hindustan Day. He was the founder president of English Language Teachers Interaction Forum, LTIF, and editor of Quarterly Journal of LTIF. For about 15 years, has been working with his LTIF teammates on an informal research project empowering rural India through English language education with ethnomethodology as the core concept of second language teaching learning. He authored of about 200 articles and edited about 60 books. Many of his books have been prescribed for study at leading Indian universities such as University of Madras, Pondicherry Central University, Amravati University, Pune, Bharatiya University, Coimbatore, Tarier University, Salem, Hindustan Deemed University, Chennai, University of Calicut, and MD University, Kottayam. He organized about 500 workshops, orientation programs for teachers of schools, colleges, and universities. He was special invitee at academic event at IIT Bombay, Symbiosis, Pune, EFL University, Hyderabad, Regional Institute of English, Bangalore, etc. He, on behalf of LTIF, organized about a dozen national international conferences in English. He was invited by a New York-based leading publishing firm to be part of their publishing work. Currently giving online lectures and making presentations on webinar. Now, I would request Dr. Nair to start today's session. Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all at IPS Academy. At the outset, let me express my sincere thanks, personal thanks to Dr. Shalini Mathur for this invitation, to the Department of English, the supporting team, and the management too. In fact, we were supposed to meet, not this way, personally, face to face, a few months back. Everything was scheduled, and I was supposed to be there with you at your institution towards the end of March, 30th, 31st, or 29th, 30th, 31st, like that. I booked my flight ticket too from Chennai and return ticket too. Then the whole thing took another turn, and that meeting was not cancelled but only postponed. Now we are meeting. We are meeting, but a different kind of meeting. How do we meet now, as opposed to the proposed meeting of March? What are the main differences between these two meetings? Here also I can see you. Here also I can talk to you. Then what makes the difference between this electronic media mediated meeting and the natural meeting? What is common to both? What brings down, what wipes away the differences between the face-to-face meeting and this online meeting? One central factor is there which wipes out, washes off the differences. Now I did not travel all the way from, now I am in, say, Trivandrum, the capital of Kerala, down south. I need not board a train, or I need not catch a flight and be there. I don't need to spend any money from my pocket to reach there. I don't have to spend any time to either fly or say to travel by train. I saved a lot of time. I can see you. I can meet you. I can talk to you one by one, all of you. What made this possible? And that is central to these two meetings, face-to-face meeting and online meeting. That central part is language. Language plays the key role in face-to-face meeting and in absentia meeting. Before technology came, maybe in India, some 25 years ago, how would I communicate with the head of the Department of English or some of my friends there? I would write a letter. Dear so-and-so, I will be coming by train to a place. Please send some of the boys to the railway station. I'll be very happy to be with you. So my letter from Kerala reaches Indore, and somebody comes to the railway station or the airport, and they receive. There also language plays a role, but there it was writing in absentia. Now it is in absentia, but there is no need of writing now. I can directly speak to you. thanks to technology. So, language communication, are they synonymous? Do they mean the same? Not exactly. Communication is whole, language is part of it. Even without language, through some other mode as well, one can communicate. So the relationship between language and communication is part whole. But on some occasions, language becomes almost the same as communication too. We'll come to those points later. What I mean to say is that one face-to-face meeting which was supposed to take place in last March was postponed. In its place, an online meeting has taken place. And we are going to interact. And this interaction is crucial. Suppose I say, or you say, suppose you say, yeah, yesterday I met my old principal of my school in the market. I met my principal of the school in the market. What do we mean by that word met? To meet does not simply mean the functioning of the eyes. No, something more is there. You didn't simply see your principal and then both of you parted. No, you talked. The old man asked you, hello, where are you now? What are you doing now? Very good. You are at a great institution. Very well. I have heard of that institution. Congratulations. And how about your studies? He inquires so many things and you reply. Only when these inquiries and replies are incorporated into that 5-minute situation, it becomes meeting. Otherwise, it is simply an act of seeing. I saw, just a second. I saw a tree uprooted. I saw a tree uprooted. Yesterday there was a heavy storm and I saw a tree uprooted. There, no communication. Only a tree was blocking the road and you and the tree didn't communicate much. Of course, if you are a lover of nature, you did communicate, but that's another higher level of communication. When we see a tree falls, somebody chops it down, all of us really feel very sorry. This tree has been providing us with the shade and cool and water and air and all those things. Why should the government permit to chop it off? Here also you are communicating. You are communicating with the tree. You are communicating with yourself. You are communicating with the rest of the world. You are communicating with your own mind. There are also communications there. That's a higher level communication. Poetic communication is there, another higher level communication. Transactional communication is there, which we people make use of every day. Can I have a cup of strong tea, please? Less sugar. At a wayside tea shop. I used transactional language. But in an English poetry class, I don't use that language. I go to another level of, higher level of communication. So what I meant to say was that at times, language and communication function synonymously. On some other levels, language remains a small part of the big whole communication. With this point, now let us move to our main point. Just have a look at this newspaper and you know that it's a newspaper. Do you gather anything out of it? Nothing. I'm sure, nothing. But you know that it's a newspaper. Now you see another newspaper. It communicates. It communicates to you. If I ask you the name of the newspaper, or say what the main headline is, you will be able to communicate with me. In the first instance, in this case, the medium is not common to us. Only I communicate with that newspaper. With the other newspaper, all of us together here can communicate. Why? The second newspaper binds Indians together. From down south Kerala, me, somewhere in North India, you, and many, suppose it's an open forum, quite a few others from various parts of the world also can interact with us, just because the medium is common to all of us. The global language, as you say, I would rather call it not the global language. Global language is fine, good. I would call it a language of opportunities for you right now. To me, a few decades ago, English was, and for you is, a language of opportunities. You forget about all the other terms attached to English. Just remember this phrase. What is English? English is a language of opportunities. 4 or 5 decades ago, 40 or 50 years ago, when I passed my PG and was looking for a job in my own place in Kerala, well, I had English with me, but I used English only in the classrooms. Once out, I used to communicate with my students in our mother tongue. So that time, English was restricted to me, to the classroom, to the library, to the newspaper, to the reading, writing some request to the principal, or say some formal communication, etc. But I go to lunch to a small nearby restaurant, no English. Some students come running to me saying that she couldn't finish the assignment, she would bring it tomorrow. But she told me all those things in our mother tongue. They didn't use English. 10 minutes ago, we were in the English class and we were using only English. But after 10 minutes, the girl comes to me saying that, sorry, sir, but that sorry, sir, and everything was in mother tongue. So when I was teaching English in PG classes, in my place, I hardly used English outside the academic setup. I crossed the borders of Kerala, reached part of Tamil Nadu, neighboring state. Though it was my neighboring state, I didn't have any Tamil at all, virtually nil. I got a better job, better salary, better position, everything. So I moved. So many advantages there. Therefore, I left my homeland, my hometown, and migrated to another speech community. Right. 1 or 2 years, I stayed in a small rented house. Was happy, no problem. But then I thought of continuing in that. Earlier, when I moved to that place, I thought of going back to my place in 1 or 2 years, just for an experience and exposure. Then many more advantages came, more salary came, better positions came, and so many things came. Opportunities for writing, publishing, interacting, taking part in seminars and conferences, organizing so many things. So more and more opportunities came. Then by the end of the second year, I thought, well, I will stay back in this place for some more time. Then accordingly, I had to make some more changes in my life. Instead of the small rented house, why can't I have a small house of my own? I thought. I had a little money with me. Some bank promised some more amount. Fine. I started going in search of a good builder because I have certain requisites. I wanted certain special things at home, like everyone. Whoever wants to build a house will have their own needs and demands and requests. Some of them will have to compromise, but some of them. My demands were that I need a room, very comfortable room for my study and library and office together. It should be a large room. A lot of bookshelves and say my computer, this thing and all those things. When people come, there should be room for sitting and discussing. So I have to convey these specific demands to a builder. I went around looking for the builders. Quite a few good builders were there. And I saw their say, buildings as well, flats and individual houses as well. But the problem was that we couldn't communicate with each other. They spoke only Tamil and I had no Tamil. I was able to speak Malayalam, English, and a little Hindi. Had I been in your place, I would somehow manage with my little Hindi. But Tamil, I didn't have at all. So I moved from one builder to another builder, and they were good builders. But I was totally disappointed. I couldn't convey my wishes, my desires, my plans, my budget, all those things to those builders. They couldn't convey to me either. I went on looking for. Finally, I landed on a small builder who was not as great as the other builders who I met earlier. I knew that his say firm, his company, his establishment is not very, very good, but he spoke good English. He and I together exchanged our views, our demands, our constraints, our limitations, budget, target, everything. Settled. Settled. He demanded 15 lakh for a small house. This was some 15 years ago. Settled. Out of the 15 lakh, when the house was finished and handed over, I knew that minimum 3 to 4 lakh went to his pocket as profit. Definitely. If I myself did the whole work under my own supervision, say bringing masons and say carpenters and buying materials, everything, I could do the same thing. I could get it finished in 11 lakh maximum. 4 lakh out of 15 straight away went to the builder. I know. How did that Tamil builder get my 4 lakh as profit? My dear ones, language of opportunities. Nothing else. He was not at all a good builder like the ones which who I met earlier. Just because somehow he traveled north and south, he picked up fairly good English. I too had my own English. My Malayalam at the back seat, his Tamil at his back seat, for both of us, English in the front seat. The driving was smooth. With this English in the driver's seat, both of us comfortably relaxed. He made money. Okay. I got a house. I didn't have to take any leave or anything from my university. In the evening, I simply went and had a look. I gave some suggestions, finished. Not a single day's leave. Language of opportunities. That's all. Nothing more divine about English. If there is anything divine about any language, that is our mother tongue. If there is anything divine godly, it is mother. I'm sure most of you believe in God, or all of you believe in God. Not like people like us in Kerala. In Kerala, some of us don't believe that much in God. Don't tell anybody. Just a secret. So I'm sure all of you believe in God. But suppose I ask you, can you show me the God? Come on, my dear boys and girls. Suppose I ask me, well, fine, you believe in God. Can you show your God? What will you do? Just think of, what would you do? Show me your God. Next time, I'm sure I'll be coming to your place after this COVID and all these things are over. Definitely, I will be coming to your place and I may be asking this question: how will you show me your God? My dear young ones, show me the photograph of your mother. Okay, show me the photograph of your mother. That is the God on earth. Other gods are secondary. This is the real God. So when we call mother tongue, that language is the supreme language for everyone. To you, your mother tongue. To somebody else, their mother tongue. To me, my mother tongue. So divinity, greatness, all those things go with mother tongue. English, a language of opportunity to begin with. At a higher stage, it moves to a higher plane. So with English, my builder made money, sure. But the same person, suppose he reads a lot in English, literature, philosophy, and all those things. And though a builder, he participates in English seminars and conferences and talks about something on religion or something on philosophy or science or his own, field, architecture, etc. Then he moves with the help of English to a higher realm. There it is, not simply a language of opportunity, it's a language of identity. I'll give you a simple example. While traveling by bus, not your college bus, a private bus in the town, in your place, suppose you hear two people speaking in good English in the back seat, and you are in the front seat. And they keep on talking, and they are speaking rather loud. You can hear them, you can hear what they speak. How long can you resist the temptation of turning back, looking back, and finding out who the speakers are? When the whole bus has the voice and noise of Hindi, distinctly heard two people speaking rather good English. Naturally, we turn back, look back, and find who those speakers are. They are not tourists from Britain or Sweden, you know. They look exactly like our own people. They speak good English. What is there between the back seat and the front seat? In between the 10 feet air, what is getting traversed, transformed? Some sort of a recognition, some sort of a respect, some sort of a sense of heightened identity. Whether it is valid or not, that we don't know. That may be because of our colonial past. I'm not going into that past. by listening to good English being spoken on a bus. I said on a bus. In English, we have to say on a bus, not in a bus. Since you are my students, I'm just giving you small tips. While listening to somebody speaking good English on a bus, we naturally turn back and listen to. This is social recognition. English brings that too. Apart from opportunities, money, position, job, promotion, travel, allowances, positions. Apart from this, the society speaks about you. She speaks good English. Or, oh, that boy hails from village. But listen, his English sounds very good. Or, at a job interview by the end of your course, those 2 or 3 gentlemen and women who are sitting on this side of the round table, and you clutching your folders and certificates very firmly and with a little fear and all those things, you on the other side. You tried to answer a few questions. Some of the questions you didn't know. You said, sorry, sir, I don't know, I haven't studied these things. Never answer with foolish answers. Simply say, sorry, sir, I didn't study it. Or sir, I think I studied in the 3rd semester, but now I forgot. Simply tell the truth. Anyway, by clutching your certificates and folders, you leave the room. Now, what is happening in the room? When you are out, 6 of us are sitting together and assessing your performance. There is one professor who assesses your subject knowledge. Whatever subject you are. Okay, she gave you marks. Somebody was there about your appearance and say your behavior and mannerisms and all those things to take up. He gave you some marks. And here I am, the so-called English language man. I told them, sir, maybe his answers to many of your questions may not be that correct, content-wise, subject-wise and all those things. But he speaks good English. He speaks good English. And I think your firm has to deal with quite a few foreign nationals, marketing, advertising, production, and all those things. In that case, I would recommend, sir or sirs, please do take that boy. Because that content knowledge in 3 months training, you can resupply. Just 3 months training. Whatever he forgot at the BTech program or at the MBA program, in 3 months training, you can provide those things. But you need not worry about his language and communication skills. Though he is from a village, his communication skills are good. Therefore, may I recommend this young man to your job, sir? Well, you are in. You are in. I don't say that English is great. What I said was, English gave you an opportunity. In another case, I used to tell my own students, imagine, I taught for a short while in, say, an engineering college as well. I told them, fine, your computer science is very good, and you scored almost 98% out. But at interviews and other places, your performance was not up to the mark, not satisfactory, because your communication skills failed you. Option 1. Option 2, your content knowledge, fairly good, 70% good. Communication skills, equally good, 70%. Option 2. Option 3, your content knowledge is very low, but your communicative English is fairly good. Option 3. Out of these three options, and there could be a fourth option, both content knowledge and communication skills, both are not satisfactory. That option is, out of these four options, what would be a prospective employer preferring? I would say the second. A fairly good content knowledge in computer science or in civil engineering or say in business, and a fairly good amount of communication skills. This man or this girl, after a short training, can straight away send to the marketing field or to the production field or to the advertising field or to here also. The label attached to English is a language of opportunity. Next one. If this is the case, how in a Hindi speaking, exclusively Hindi speaking region, how are we going to develop communication skills in English? I told you earlier, when I left my state, I hardly communicated with others in English except in classrooms and in writing. The same is the case with you as well. There is no need for you to communicate in English at all. Then, before answering this question, let me come to our key term, self-esteem. What is self-esteem? In your lab, you have a barometer, which tells you after measuring today's temperature, okay, 33 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, after a heavy snowfall, it may be coming down. The mercury may be coming down, 24 degrees perhaps. Like that thermometer there on the wall of your lab, inside us, every one of us, we too have a barometer, invisible. We can see it, we can feel it. That barometer measures not temperature in Celsius, but my estimate about myself. My estimate about myself. How am I? Who am I? What am I? How am I? Who am I? What am I? Based on my own answers to these three questions, the barometer inside my mind records my estimate about myself. Out of 100, the maximum point is 100. I gave marks 63 out of 100. Imagine I am a student and I am entering the class a little late by some chance. While entering the class, like all of you, I enter with this barometer in my mind. Everyone has it. Nobody sees others. Only you see your reading. I see my reading. That's all. So while entering the class, 5 minutes late with the permission of the teacher, how do I enter the class? With the barometer showing 63 degrees out of 100. Not bad. Imagine I am in a plus 2 class. I am a little weak in say, maths, but my Hindi is very good. My second language, Sanskrit, also is really good. Social science is my favorite subject. Science, all physics, chemistry, maths, and all sciences, I manage, not bad. Social science is my favorite, and I'm really good at, say, Hindi and Sanskrit, really good. I write a few poems and say, in the school magazine, I publish things. With these estimates, I gave myself 63 out of 100. My maths was a little weak. Physics, chemistry, and biology were not very high, but not, I'm not all poor. With these 63 points conferred on me by myself, I entered the class. Unfortunately, the first hour is maths, my weak point, and I was a little late too. Some important point was already discussed by the teacher by the time I entered. All were very busy writing down notes and say busy with something. The teacher permitted me, but ignored me. He didn't brief what was there on the board. I looked around. Everyone is very busy working. Even my close friends don't mind me. I think there is some sort of very strict work is given in the class. How do I sit? Nervous. I know that any time I may be caught and nobody to help me. And I can't look on my left or right either because I may be caught for copy, stealing. So all nervous, I sit there. Luckily, when all others stood up and gave their answers and etc. discussions were there, the math teacher luckily didn't ask me any questions, but I was spared, but I was ignored. I was not punished, but I was ignored by my math teacher. By the end of that first hour, what happened to my 63 degree of self-esteem? Went down to 52 degrees. Why? Why? I had a poor estimate of myself during these 50 minutes. And the reason was, remember, I'm a +2 boy. The reason was, why was I late? I had to take breakfast to my grandma in hospital. Did anyone ask me? Nobody. What could happen to me, the +2 student? Should I curse the grandma who untimely got into hospital? Impossible. Should I curse the teacher? No way. Whatever the cause, whatever the reason may be, my 53 degree went down to 52. Then came my next hour, my favorite Hindi class, followed my good performing Sanskrit class, but I couldn't do as well as I used to do in the early classes. I didn't take part in the class, Hindi class. I didn't get myself involved in the Hindi and Sanskrit class because that downfall in the barometer prevented me from participating, involving in the classes which I very much like. I like those teachers also. I like those subjects as well, languages. How long will it take to get my 63 degrees of self-esteem back? It depends on individual. If I am an introvert, one who withdraws to oneself, doesn't mingle with many friends, it may take months and months. But if I am a very jovial fellow who interacts with a lot of friends and say, during the interval and say lunch break, fight with my friends and say, and all those things, maybe day after tomorrow, I may come back to my normalcy. But the problem is that there was a big loss in between. The reason is self-esteem is not based on the marks which we teachers, I am your English teacher, say, so here is your computer science teacher, there is your say, engineering drawing teacher, and what are you is not the sum total of the marks which 7 teachers of you plus the principal together, 8 of us give. No, 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 not at all. It is not the sum total of the 8 teachers' marks. Self-esteem is your own assessment of your merit, considering your inabilities, helplessness, constraints. My maths is a little poor. You are admitting your constraints. I should take a tuition, or I should improve. So this self-assessment is the real mark. Therefore, my dear boys and girls, never get worried about the marks which we teachers give you in your assignments, term papers, end of the semester exams. We are not gods. We make mistakes. Our assessment, please don't take it as the ultimate assessment. Some of us may be right. I may go wrong. I may go wrong. I have 100 scripts after the end semester exam. Because of the COVID and all those things, exams got postponed. And the principal or say the vice chancellor says that say day after tomorrow, the results should be out. I have to evaluate 100 scripts from one class, another say 80 from. I don't have enough time to do justice to all your writing. There are essays, there are paragraphs, and there are say grammar questions and all those things. But when I picked up one script, the handwriting was not at all good. I had to struggle to read it. And it's a long essay, a 1.5 page essay. I tried, but because of my old age also, I can't read it properly. And since the handwriting gave a poor impression, which is not good. A student's handwriting should not give a poor impression to a teacher, or a teacher should not be misled by the poor handwriting. That's a different thing. Anyway, I'm a human being. By seeing the not so clear handwriting, well, I gave say 3 out of 10. 10 marks for an essay question. I give 3. My assessment of this boy is wrong. So many such reasons, time constraints, so many other reasons. Therefore, my dear boys and girls, never go by the ultimate assessment of teachers. You have to assess yourselves, not even your parents, not even your parents. You have to, but that assessment must be honest. Must be honest. In any case, if it was a small theft for which you are caught, if it were a breaking of a window while playing cricket and say you are caught, well, self-assessment should be honestly done because it is done by you, number 1. Number 2, it is made on your own performance. Number 3, it is made for you yourself, not for the world to see. With this self-esteem, we move forward. Psychologists, philosophers all agree that the basic requirement for doing something successfully, be it farming, a new software you are going to develop. In a textile mill, somebody is arriving at a new pattern for a new sari. A shopkeeper is thinking of rearranging the things, stationery here and those things here and gross. Self-assessment is the key factor to the success of any small or big tasks in life. Personally, I would say there is no small task in life. There is no small task in life. A huge boulder, granite. Every now and then grains are falling off the granite in sun and shine. It has been there for centuries. But small grains have been saying goodbye to that huge boulder, granite boulder. These small grains were and are part of that huge boulder. Can we say the grains are small and the boulder is huge or large? No. Whatever we do as students now, as adults later, as employees later, as masters, bosses later, as parents later, so self-esteem, how to develop it, how to preserve it, and how to get it undisturbed. So somebody laughed at you in person. Somebody laughed at you in the social media. Should you get upset? Who am I? Not what that bloody fool told about me. No. Let him go. I know what I am. Those three don't talk to me these days. What happened? They were very close to me. Some misunderstanding. Forget about it. I'll go and meet them as usual. I'll invite them to share lunch, or I'll behave as usual. Let them be normal as and when they please. If they don't, forget about it. I know what I am. I haven't done any harm to them. I haven't laughed at them. They laughed at me. Okay, doesn't matter. For a short while, you are insulted. But in the long run, you have become great. You have become great because you are able to forget that insult. On the other hand, throughout the class, while sitting in the class, instead of listening to lectures, you are still brooding over that insult of those three friends of yours. You are completely absorbed and you are thinking of how to revenge, how to pay back. You are losing your class on this side and you are falling off from a position of normal human beings to a rather subhuman human beings by thinking of revenge, by laughing at them back. Forget about it. Because look at your barometer inside. My teachers have certain, say, opinion about me. I shouldn't spoil that one. I should work hard. I am weak in this subject, I should update. I should go and seek the help of that teacher. Right. For all these things, what is central is self-esteem. Once that rocky foundation is there, you can build a strong building on top of it. In the absence of that rocky foundation, if the foundation is muddy, skiddy, whatever computer science, whatever physics, whatever knowledge we gain cannot create a strong structure because the bottom part, the foundation part is still flexible, sandy. My dear young ones, you are your master. You are your master. We teachers perceive you, see you only in small parts. As an English teacher, I see only the English part of you. I never saw the Bharatanatyam in that girl, the cricket in that boy, the computer science in those two boys, the artistic talent in that girl, this thing, that thing. In the 50 minutes, I was constrained to finish my syllabus, conduct the exam, hand over the mark list to the HOD, etc. In this hurry, I couldn't assess the cricket and Bharatanatyam and the artistic talent and pencil drawing and the bravery of saving a drowning cow or a child. Then how can my assessment of you be true? I see only a small facet of yours, a small part of yours. Who sees the whole, in and out? Not even your parents. Even parents misjudge their children, only you. Then, how about when mistakes are made? Self-correction. Our own mistakes are our greatest teachers. Nothing can teach me better than my own mistakes. We learn from our own mistakes. In that case, when it comes to language, you may ask, sir, in this non-English speaking area, how are we going to communicate in English? I began with mistakes. Well, 2 or 3 of you sit together under the tree. Just think about an interesting thing to talk about, not some wonderful things, something of your interest. A few months ago, did any of you think that, say, Amitabh Bachchan and Abhishek Bachchan all will be, say, caught by COVID? We never thought. We never thought that, say, big people and, say, big politicians and great people will be caught. We thought that only ordinary beings like us. Why can't you talk about those things? COVID is a highly democratic fellow. He distributes everything in equal. 3 of you sit under a tree and start discussing. Sir, we make a lot of mistakes while speaking English. Very good. By the way, when did you make mistakes? Did you make mistakes while speaking Hindi? No, sir. So when did you make mistake? Sir, while speaking English. Very good. That means you started speaking English and therefore you made mistakes. No problem. If you don't function in English, do you make any mistakes? No. My grandma, who is no more, I'm sorry, never made any mistakes in English. Why? She didn't know English. She didn't function in English. No problem. I made a lot of mistakes. Still I make mistakes. My children also make mistakes. My students also make mistakes. My colleagues also make mistakes. Even this morning I made a mistake. Why? I am using English. If I don't use English, no mistake. Very good, great. No mistakes in English. Look at me. No mistakes in English. Why? I don't use English. But unfortunately, I have to use English, or fortunately, and I keep on making mistakes. Mistakes are part of life. Mistakes are part of learning. Without making mistakes, nobody learns anything. I'm sure almost all of you are good at two-wheelers. All of you are good at two-wheelers. And a very, I don't know what type of, say, MRI scanning, what it may be, some advanced level of scanning of your knees, both knees, will reveal that even though certain marks are invisible, all of you have marks on your knees. A very powerful scanning will give you the result. All of your knees have some sort of scars. Why? You fell off the bicycle, you fell off the scooter, you fell off the bike, and invariably, knees are the worst sufferers. There could be marks. Some of the marks are not visible now, but some turned into scars, they are there. Now look at the scanning report of my knees. Perfect. No scars. Why? I am a big zero at two-wheeler. My parents, way back in those days, thought that learning cycling was a very bad habit, like smoking, playing cards, and all those things. In a village, my parents would have a very close watch on me, whether he is going this way, that way, or that way, that way. No cycling, no scars. No cycling, no falling, no mistakes. What to do? Number two, quite a few, not all, quite a few may be good at swimming. This old man also is good, not bad. If you are good at swimming, how much dirty puddle water got into you long ago? A glass of, 2 glasses of, half a bucket of. Only a little puddle water getting into our stomach from the pond, from the river, from the, say, village field in floods, occasionally from the swimming pool as well, in rare case. Only when a little puddle water, dirty water getting in, we learn swimming. In my tummy, I have quite a lot. Back in the village, I enjoyed swimming. And now, even at this old age, if something happens to me during the floods, somehow I'll manage. Those mistakes which I had in my childhood retained me as a moderate swimmer. Through mistakes, I got swimming. Through mistakes, you got two-wheeler riding. I didn't make mistakes on two-wheeler. I have no art of riding. Any mistake. So, English, a language of opportunity. It gives us better chances in the world, number one. In addition, a heightened social respect, whatever the reason may be. Number two, Any foreign language is learned only through making mistakes. Mistakes in pronunciation, mistakes in grammar, mistakes in all other fields. Each and every time we will be correcting. After this session, you simply say, use your smartphone and find out the pronunciation of Z-E-R-O. Not now, after this session. Z-E-R-O. Z-E-R-O. Word number 2, P-A-R-E-N-T. P-A-R-E-N-T. 2 words, pronunciation. Okay. And you find out whether you have been using it one way or the right way or the wrong way. Number 2, what do you mean by the word several? S-E-V-E-R-A-L, several. Okay, whatever you mean. After this session, check the meaning of that word too. Meaning, not pronunciation. Meaning of that word too. Tomorrow we'll be meeting. Okay, so my point is that mistakes are part of learning. But any time and every time we can correct our own mistakes. The last question in 5 minutes. Back at school, perhaps our teachers told us, okay, learn English so that you can use it later. My dear children, your teacher told, I got this job and I am going to settle here in Madhya Pradesh here itself. I am not going to move to down South India or say Chennai or Bangalore. But your generation has to move across India and sometimes outside India too. Therefore, learn English so that later, while getting admission to MCA or MBA or say BTech, you can use English. And for getting a job also later, you can use English. Perhaps some of your English teachers told you like that. A very sincere teacher. No? Yes. A very sincere teacher, because that teacher was all worried about your future. Because he told you that his present and future both are safe because he is not going to move out. He can manage with Hindi. No need of English communication skills. But he warned you of your future. Without English, you will be in trouble. So that teacher of yours was a very sincere teacher. But that teacher went by a wrong faith, a wrong belief. I admit that that teacher was sincere. He or she loved you, but a mistake. You did geometry in your school, and later, suppose you joined civil engineering. Geometry serves as the basis. Geometry serves as the basis for some other disciplines as well. Learning geometry, the basics of geometry back at school, and using it at the construction site. Perpendicularity, width, area, how many, say, tiles should go into this room, application. Learning geometry at school, using or applying it later. In the case of language, it is not like that. It is not like that. By learning the rules of passive voice, subject, agreement, comparison, this thing and that thing at school and in college too, will you be able to use English in Bangalore, in Chennai, in Kolkata? You won't be. You think of let's say that passive construction, this much I have to pay. You will be scratching your head for, say, rules of passive, rules of index, and all those things. You are not able to use. Then what is the equation in the case of learning a language? In the case of geometry and physics and chemistry and biology and all such things, learn and use. In the case of English, use, learn. In the LKG class, you start using. In the UKG, in class 1, in class 3, in class 11, in UG. Use English and learn simultaneously. Not learn English and use. With these few tips, I would like to conclude today's interaction. I thank once again the head of the department as a whole, and the university and its management for this wonderful opportunity to interact with the young minds. A request to Dr. Shalini is that if your students do have some questions or queries, if they can give it in writing to you, you can edit them if necessary and mail to me this evening or like that. Tomorrow, the first 5 or 10 minutes we can spend on answering those questions, or if we have an interactive session right now following this one also, most welcome. I would like to interact with the students. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We'll meet again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Snehal, please start. Snehal?
Hello. Okay. Thank you, sir. If you have any questions during the session, kindly just ask your questions to sir.
And mail those questions to sir. That will be attended to in the tomorrow's session, right?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, sir, and thank you all of you for giving your time and attending the session. We will continue this session tomorrow also, and for tomorrow's session, the link will be shared on your WhatsApp groups. Thank you.